What's up, guys? How you doing? I hope you're all doing excellent. Today I need to take a day and just get a little bit organized. We're getting closer and closer with our RX7 project. We're waiting on a few things in the process, like a new map to come from the tuner so we can start it up with the S4 engine, and a few odds and ends to tidy up and finish the Haltech wiring install. But in the meantime, there's lots of little things around the car that need to be done that I have in the back of my mind on post-it somewhere, and I want to get it all on one master list. Got myself a fresh whiteboard. I'm going to go up and down the car, write down everything, little odds and ends we need to do before we get it running and driving. Alright guys, so here's the first draft of the list. Now, everything in black is stuff I need to do to get the car running and ready so we can hopefully make it to 7 stock. The bodywork's in green because that's all luxury stuff. The car will run and drive without the body looking super nice, and I want to take my time doing it. So these are non-priority items, but this is the stuff I want to start working through. And all I'm going to do for today's video is see how many of these I can get crossed off the list today. Alright, now the ignition harness is connected to power via the input on this distribution block. We have power running from the main post there. It connects directly to the battery terminal, just like one long battery cable. And this power distribution block is also something that's on the list. It's a cool little product, has a covered up blade fuse holder. And so we can put in different amperage fuses in there to run the new accessories that we're putting on there, namely the electric fan for one, and the power steering pump once that's ready to go. Okay, so right off the bat, boom, boom. Let's see what else we can get done now. Alright guys, I just got back from my dad's. I used this drill press to tap and thread in our intake air temperature sensor on the throttle elbow, so that's great. And we made up this little thing. This is my attempt to get our water temperature sensor into the location I want. Let me show you where that is. So I want to use this location on the filler neck off the top of the water pump because it's right after the thermostat. So this is a M16 1.5 which threads in there, and it's actually a bolt. And I drilled in and tapped it for an M12 1.5, which is the thread fitting for this temperature sensor. So now what I'm going to do is cut this out in the length that I need so we can sink that down in there and take care of 2 more sensors for this setup. Alright, so here's the fitting plumbed in. We can't check if it's going to hold until we pressurize the coolant system, so we'll just see, since it looks good for now, that it's going to work. If not, I can plug that hole and put it into the stock location here. But I want to run those in parallel, so that's the tip now. Now what I'm going to do is get this nice and tidy down here, back here, so we can install the upper intake manifold. I'm going to get the wiring harness zip tied up looking nice, and I'm going to get the fuel fittings all tightened up now that we've got our final layout. Well, that was super tedious. My lower back's killing me, but what that allows us to do is get the upper intake manifold on, because I needed to square away everything underneath it so that we can put it down and bolt it down and not have to keep taking it off, which means we can connect our last few sensors and start running our vacuum lines from the upper intake manifold. So that's great. Let me show you what it looks like. It's not the prettiest because after our master tuner gets a hold of the car and tunes it, we might have to move some things around and maybe we did it wrong. So that's a consideration. But after that tuning session is done, we will wrap everything in Tessa tape and make it look nice and neat like everything else. But this is what it looks like right now. Okay, one of the things I have on my to-do list is to check the starter, because we've tried to flip over to the ignition and we haven't got any results. So I don't know if it's a problem with the ignition switch or with the starter itself. So I've got my multimeter hooked up and I'm just going to try and connect it to the positive lead and see if it cranks for a little bit. Now I don't want to crank this too much, I just want to see if it will engage at all. If it does, we can wire a push button start or something like that. So I'm going to get underneath the car down here. I've got my multimeter hung down there. I've got the positive end connected, and I'm just going to see what happens. Okay, so I can get it to make some noise. The wires get really hot because this is not the correct gauge, and I think I'm just missing one connection, so got to add that to the list. Now, one of the other things I have going on is that we are not running a heater core yet. So there's a heater line output from the rear iron here that we need to route somewhere. And we're just going to plumb it down underneath and into the heater line input right down here. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that now and crack one more thing off the list. Okay, so it's probably been about an hour since I put that heater hose on, and what I was trying to do was hook up the whole radiator, bottom feed, top feed. And if you remember, if you've watched all the videos long ago, we had to modify an FD kit for this TurboSource Borg Warner setup, and we have this crazy curly Q for the water feed line, and I cannot manage to get the bottom radiator hose on. And I took the clamp off, and now I can't undo the fitting because I was like, okay, screw this, I'm just going to get this little feed line or drain line remade because this is not working. And now I can't even get that off, so I'm hoping to avoid pulling the whole turbo off and going there. But this is just a good learning point, because as you're getting those final things dialed in, you find all these little nooks and crannies. Like, this engine bay is getting much more crowded really quickly. And man, it is, I'm going to show it to you real quick, but I'm going to have to figure out something for this. But I'm glad we're doing it now, and this is part of the process. So take a look. So right here's the curly Q I'm talking about. And this fitting, it comes from behind here, comes down, and loops up. And it's made for an FD water pump. So the plan was to pull off this back portion, loop this heater hose around and feed it in, but I cannot get anything in here to tighten this down or anything here. So I'm going to reach out to TurboSource, see what they can do, but I can't get any tools in here to loosen this and get this out. As I said, man, if I could just cut this line and have somebody roll a little bead on it, I could probably get it to where this line just goes down and stays away from this hose, but I can't even get anything in there right now. So that's what I'm struggling with at the moment. I might move on to something else or just keep working on it, so we'll see. Okay guys, I just took off the fitting. I had to take off the turbo from the manifold to get it loose. I had to remove the alternator, which is hanging over there. which is fine because I have to do some work on the alternator for this checklist. But anyway, this is the piece right here. So I've got to get this cut off and modified because this is not going to work with the setup the way it is. So we get let's be positive. I was going to say 1 step forward, 2 step backwards, but let's just say we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and we just have to get this taken care of, and then we'll have a great solid build once everything's put back together. So while this is off like this, I'm going to go ahead and take care of the alternator. So how about that? Alright guys, so even though it's a little bit of a frustrating end, overall a very productive day. Let's take a final look at our list here. It's a lot of good things crossed off. So again, this is all in preparation for firing up this engine and getting it ready to go for 7 stock. So you guys know what to do. Please remember, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Oh.